Oh, baby, how you find? All I need is my buddy. I say I'm gonna get high. Oh, yeah.
Now the takedown pin, I got a recommendation from Irish UMC Vet. Awesome guy. His link is in the descriptions below. Check it out. It's not only a Punisher logo takedown pin, but it also has this really cool checkering, which I'm hoping will be really grippy and easy to pull out when needed. And of course the pivot pin is the exact same way. So it has a groove with 2 notches. That's where the detent pin will go. Putting that facing the back and just sliding it in there for right now. Now before I go ahead and put in the detent pin in the back right here, I'm going to go ahead and squirt just a little bit of oil in the hole. And that idea I got from a gunsmith, so I'm going to take his word for it. Just a little should do it. Taking out the detent pin, just go ahead and put it in the hole right there. Now that the detent pin is in, here's the spring. There's 2 of them exactly the same. Doesn't really matter which one. Go ahead and just put that in. And I like to make sure that the pin, or the detent pin, is in the slot, which it seems to be. We're going to put in another retaining pin that goes in right here. It's going to be the fattest spring available. And this little detent pin with a nipple on it. I was also told to go ahead and put a little bit of oil in the hole. And with that done, I'll go ahead and put in the spring and the pin that goes over the spring. There we go. Now because we're working with anodized aluminum, both the receiver and the buffer tube, I was also told to go ahead and oil the threads just a little bit. And that's just going to help them not to bind together and become one. And that has actually happened to me before. When I pulled the old buffer tube off of my other rifle, it stripped the threads on the buffer tube. Luckily, not the threads on the lower. And so this is supposed to help prevent that. Getting it started, make sure your castle nut's all the way in the back position. And of course this little plate here, and just start threading it on. Now when I'm turning the buffer tube, you'll see the spring right there. Eventually that's going to start catching it, and it already has. When that happens, just make sure you don't bend the spring so bad that you're going to break it. Meanwhile, you have to worry about this pin here. And there is a little lip on the buffer tube that's going to keep that in the downward position. Here it is right here, the lip. So it's not going any further, which means I need to go ahead and push down that pin, and then it'll be retained. Be careful when doing that, because if you mess up, that thing will go flying and you might never find it. Now that the spring is straight, slowly moving this plate forward to make sure it doesn't bind, holding it there while I adjust the castle nut. And right now it's just finger tight, but we'll go ahead and torque it down. The proper torque rating on this would be 35 pounds. There we go. So now that I have the buffer tube on, all this came from the lower parts kit from Palmetto State Armory that TJ recommended. We have the buffer tube, castle nut, and the retaining plate. Of course the pin and the spring also. Now next, we're going to go ahead and put on the buttstock. And that also came with the Palmetto State Armory kit. This can be kind of tricky. This lever, screw, whatever you want to call it right here, is what gives this its adjustability. But you really have to pull down on that hard in order to get it past this first area here and into the groove with all the different positions. Now, I've used a sock before on a Magpul buttstock. This one's a little bit different, a little bit harder to grab, so I want to use a pair of pliers. I don't think it's really going to harm this much. Just go ahead and pull on this and slide it down. There we go. I forgot to tell you this before, but now that I remember it, because trying to pull out this takedown pin was a little bit hard. Also, the groove here where the detent pin rests, go ahead and give that a little oil as well. Now that that takedown pin is in, buffer tube is on, we might as well go ahead and install the buffer spring and the buffer itself. Both of which also came with the Palmetto State lower build kit. Very awesome kit. I think it was $70, and everything except for the lower came in that kit. Now, of course, I've upgraded some parts on the rifle, so I'll have some leftovers, but that can always be used for something else, either trade or another build later down the road. Alright, putting the spring in, it's not too hard, just gotta kind of work it in there. And then the buffer, that goes in the spring. And we'll just work that back until it catches on that little button down there. And that right there is why that button has a nipple. Holds the buffer in place. If you want to take the buffer out later, you need to push this down and everything will come flying out. Okay, not flying out, but it'll come out. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to give it a like, share with your friends. Thank you for watching. Talk to you later.